So I was telling them, hey, just fly down to Guatemala City. It's not that far of a flight. It's cheaper. And then once you get there, it's really not going to be an issue getting a shuttle from Antigua all the way up to Mexico, crossing the border and going to San Cristobal, because I'd done it before. And it only cost maybe around $30 to buy one seat to go all the way up to San Cristobal, which I remember, admittedly it was 2 years ago that I did this, but I remember it being not that bad. We stopped on breaks, we had like a couple bathroom breaks, we had a lunch break. We literally stopped at one place for like 30 minutes. We all ate lunch and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't a bad trip that I remembered.
Yeah, it sounded like it would be a lot better than sitting in an airport, not really being able to speak the language, and then trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Is there somewhere to eat here? How do we navigate that? Whereas if flying into Guatemala City, we'd have you. The driver supposedly was, be able to help us. Here's where we're going to stop and eat. We knew it would be safe and that kind of thing.
It was not a lot better.
Well, that's what we thought. So anyways, what happened was they flew into Guatemala City. I took like a chicken bus and then a taxi to meet them at the airport. So I met them at the airport. I already had the shuttle lined up. So that way, as soon as they got out of the airport, all we had to do was go to the shuttle, and it was only an hour from Guatemala City to Antigua. Boom, you're there. And I also, with the help of my friend Sebastian, had lined up like a halfway decent hotel that wasn't really too expensive.
It was a really cool Spanish colonial house. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, it had its own terrace with like a kitchen, had like a little dining room area. I mean, the room wasn't like too great, but for the price, I mean,
it was a cool experience too. And the flight was only 3 hours, so it was great to only have a flight for 3 hours.
And then I convinced them to stay, and I think an extra day in Antigua. And we went out for a little bit. We met up with Sebastian and his girlfriend, and we all ate dinner together. I showed Mom around like the local markets.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Central Park.
Beautiful.
We all got like some of the local drinks, like picositas or micheladas. I think the first night we had micheladas. The second day we had picositas, And they're all just like a variation of like a beer with lime, seasonings, chili peppers, but inside the beer, which is, I think it's like really good.
And tomato juice or something like that, because it tasted very similar to like a Bloody Mary.
Yeah, the michelada has tomato juice.
Okay.
Yeah, the picosita is just lime. But then we took a tuk-tuk, we rode that around a little bit. Like, I think they enjoyed Antigua quite a bit. But they were also in a hurry to get to San Cristobal. So, I think on like maybe the second day, me and Charlie, we went to a travel agency, sat down with them, and I talked with them about, hey, we have a dog, we have 5 like very large suitcases, 2 backpacks, a guitar case,
The dog.
And so basically, we came to a deal of, okay, so you'll pay for a seat for each person, then you'll pay for an extra seat for the dog, and since you have so much luggage, because this is not normal, normally the people don't travel with this much luggage going from Antigua to San Cristobal, you'll have to pay an extra seat for the luggage as well. So that made 5 seats that we paid for. It all came out to about 1,500 quetzales, which really wasn't too bad. It was around $30 to $40 per person. And I even asked around, I asked Sebastian, and he said that was a good deal, So, the shuttle ride.
It wasn't really that bad, but it could have been a whole lot better. I was expecting it to be better than it was.
It was pretty bad.
We were supposed to leave at 5:30 in the morning. The bus didn't show up until 6:15, which admittedly, I mean, that's not really that big of a deal because in Latin America, a lot of people they don't have a sense of time and they're very late for things. It's not a big deal. Sometimes it's just something you have to deal with. We had 5 very large suitcases. They didn't really have that much trouble. They did have trouble strapping it onto the roof because we had a lot, But overall, the trip took about almost more than 12 hours, almost. It was 12 hours. We left at about 6:15 from our hotel, and we didn't get to San Cristobal de las Casas until what, around 5?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
about 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to the way that people drive, especially in Guatemala, it can be quite, like, alarming, I guess, you know?
Disconcerting.
Yeah,
It was an interesting spectator sport.
yeah. I mean, they zip around, you know, they don't pay any attention to traffic lights or anything like that. They zip in and out of traffic, you know, just following the flow of it and stuff. And a lot of times they're driving on the wrong side of the road, passing tons of traffic on the right side just so they can get, you know, just an inch ahead. The entire distance is what, like 150 miles, 175 miles? But it took 12 hours. That's what the
Yeah.
roads are like in Guatemala. That's what the traffic's like. So we only stopped for one bathroom break the entire time.
It was about 10 minutes.
10-minute bathroom break. They did ask us a second time if anybody needed to use the bathroom, but nobody, like, said anything. You know, whether or not that's because nobody had to use the bathroom. I didn't really have to use the bathroom right then, but he didn't ask us, like, hey, do you want to stop for lunch or something? The last time that I took this trip, we stopped for a lunch break. We had 30 minutes. It was like half a gas station, half a restaurant. We all went in, we got our food. Like, I had like a pretty nice like breakfast and stuff like that. That didn't happen this time. And that was pretty bad. So basically none of us had eaten anything since 5:30 in the morning. the
Well,
whole trip.
we hadn't eaten at 5:30 either because we didn't have any breakfast that morning because
Yeah.
we kind of expected that we would stop.
So the night before, basically. And we didn't bring any snacks because none of us really thought about it or anything. So let's talk
And there was
about...
the other passengers on the bus too, and they didn't say anything either, so we just kind of
No,
went with it.
it was pretty
And
weird.
and the roads were so bumpy at first, it was pretty uncomfortable trying to keep your balance, and you know, it was just like this. It wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't like we were sweating to death, like it was so hot or something, or we were freezing to death. You know, that wasn't an issue really.
No, but you couldn't sleep on the shuttle.
No, you couldn't.
I mean, half the time I was trying to sleep, you know, I have my backpack right here and I was like laying on it.
Yeah.
But I had to hold on to the handle the whole time because we were going around curves like so much that if I didn't, I would have fallen out of my seat, you know? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the border because this is the most interesting part of the story probably, right?
I'm not sure if interesting is the right word.
The most jarring.
There certainly was the hardest part of the trip.
Yeah. So we finally get to the border, right? And at the border, I mean, it's not what you would expect as far as like, was there not a huge difference between the Mexican-U.S. border
Oh, yes.
and the Guatemalan-Mexican border?
Oh, yeah.
There actually is a border at the Texas-Mexican border where you are obviously supposed to stop here. You're supposed to talk to these officials.
Yeah.
Going from Guatemala to Mexico, you wouldn't even know you'd done it.
Like you couldn't, from the Texan border to over the Mexican border, you couldn't, there was no road that went anywhere. You had to stop. Like there was
barriers.
Yeah, there was barriers. You had to stop. It wasn't like you had the option of pulling off,
Yeah.
which is what you actually had coming from Guatemala to Mexico. You had a choice of just going straight or pulling off.
The Guatemalan-Mexican border is basically optional. Many people are passing by. There's people that live at the border, and their whole entire like socioeconomic thing is they have markets all lined up. They have all these stalls on the side there, and they pass by the border so frequently that nobody checks them for their passports. Nobody does anything. It's just a flow of people coming across, going across, you know, whichever way they want, unless you're a tourist. And then if you're a tourist, your shuttle driver is the one that's supposed to make sure that you get your passport checked for whatever reason. So that's exactly what happened to us. We left all of our luggage on the bus, on the shuttle, while they were getting all that crap down. We went through the little Guatemalan immigration office and got our exit stamp. It was really quick, actually. We just
yeah,
went
it was just
through.
a little building.
We just went through, gave our passports to them. They quickly stamped it, and then off we went. There was no hassle or anything with that, right?
Right.
That was easy.
Yep.
But it wasn't obvious. If the driver hadn't brought us to that building,
Right.
I would have walked right past it.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't even see a sign that said anything, really. And we were just kind of questioning, like, what is this? What are we doing here?
Yep.
You know.
So, the next problem that we had, and I kind of like vaguely remembered this when it was happening, but I didn't really remember it. Basically, what happened was we had so much luggage, and we had to take it off the shuttle, and then we were transferring to another Mexican shuttle on the other side. So the driver that was going to drive us the rest of the way met us on the Guatemalan side, and he said, "Hey, I'm your driver. Everybody follow me." Right? So there was this little dude that came up, and he had a dolly, and we paid him like 10 quetzales for each piece of luggage we had. So we had 5 pieces of luggage. So he strapped them up on his dolly, and then he just
This
picked it
little
up.
man, this little, short, skinny, poor, pitiful guy, I thought, oh, there is no way. Because we had weighed all the luggage before, and they all weighed around 50 pounds each suitcase. So it was so heavy. I couldn't
It's
believe it.
extremely
I thought the poor guy, he's strapping this all up and he's not going to be able to go anywhere. But he picked the thing up and he starts running.
I kind of figured he'd be able to do it because I don't know. I've seen a lot of, I mean, even though there's some people are like so short and small, and you would never expect them to be
I
able to do
know.
that. I've seen like some of those dudes like carrying up huge backpacks up a hike
I
for
know.
like some girls.
Since
and
we've
stuff.
been here, I've been just like totally amazed.
So anyways, we give him all of our luggage, and he has a rope and stuff, and he ties it down and stuff, and he starts taking off with it. And of course, the first thing that happens is all the luggage falls off, right? And he's strapping it back up. But see, while we're sitting here waiting for this stuff, the driver and all the other backpackers literally
have
just
already
took
left.
off.
They've already, they've just, he takes off with the crowd following. And I'm thinking to myself, he's not checking to make sure all the passengers are following or coming or are okay or anything. You'd think that would be his responsibility.
No. And I was actually kind of worrying about this whenever I saw them take off so fast, because literally the driver and everybody else, I mean, they almost started running. That's how fast they were going. It was just like, phew, and then they were gone. So I kind of knew or figured that the little luggage guy, the guy who was carrying everything on the dolly, I was actually thinking to myself, like, he probably knows where it's at. So I was pretty confident that, I wasn't worried he was going to steal anything or anything like that, because he doesn't get paid until I pay him. And yeah, he could do that, but there are thieves in Guatemala, Mexico, places like that, but typically it's not going to be that obvious, If you pay a dude to haul your luggage across, that's his job. That's what he did every day. I was not worried at all about any luggage being stolen or anything.